This video will give all the details about the causes and consequences of the Spanish Armada. What were the main reasons causing the Spanish Armada and the story leading up to it? England 1547, King Henry VIII, a Protestant, passed away due to natural causes. His son Edward was crowned King Edward VI, also a Protestant, 9 years old. His uncle, Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, continued anti-papist policies once led by King Henry, targeting those who supported Protestants but were inner Roman Catholics. Policies disheartened Catholics as they were too extreme and upset the Protestants as they were too light. Accelerating population and high economic growth coupled with religious advancements and heavy taxation while England was still at war with the French and Scottish caused riots and revolts all over England. Somerset was firm with everything, putting an end to the revolts with all means necessary. Shortly after, he was replaced by John Dudley, the Earl of Warwick, who immediately ended all war and dispute between both countries and changed his title to the Duke of Northumberland. Now 13, King Edward was heavily influenced by Thomas Cranmer, a reformist, and Archbishop of Canterbury, Protestant. This influence caused Edward to continue on the Protestant path, removing Catholic elements and introducing another prayer book. Edward was diagnosed with tuberculosis and had to choose his successor. Edward had a half-sister, Mary Tudor, but not only was she Catholic, but it was also not ideal for a woman to rule in the medieval periods. For these reasons, Northumberland convinced Edward to assign the role of successor to his daughter-in-law, Lady Jane Grey, 15, and Protestant. In 1553, Edward passed away, but Jane Grey's succession died a few days later as Edward's half-sister Mary initiated a plan against her, playing out successfully. Northumberland, Mary Jane's father-in-law, was beheaded for treason because he placed his daughter-in-law as queen instead of Mary I and organized a trap to imprison her. Mary was a firm Catholic, therefore sentenced Thomas Cranmer to death for heresy and anti-papist policies. Women did not belong in a place of power, so Mary married Philip Habsburg, Catholic, king of the Spaniards and Portuguese, who ruled over the Spanish dynasty, the most powerful at the time. Mary also got married, so Elizabeth, her half-sister, a Protestant, did not succeed her. This marriage bothered the Parliament of England as they did not want a Spanish king leading England, especially after the Inquisitions in the Netherlands. Protestants feared that the anti-papist efforts made previously would go to waste if there was a Catholic regime. Parliament eventually had Mary sign a marriage treaty agreeing that Philip will have no power over England. Philip gained control anyways and helped Mary with important decisions. Mary and Philip had a priority above all others, returning England back to the Roman Catholic Church, and did everything to ensure the success of this goal. Reginald Pole, an English cardinal to the Catholic Church, was appointed as the Archbishop of Canterbury to bring back Catholic rule. In 1555, Mary restored England's heresy laws, publicly executed over 300 religious Protestants on the stake, and had many religious laws abolished. England had financial problems due to previous wars, therefore Philip repaired the finances, importing Spanish silver from the New World. Ireland was separating from England's control, therefore, plantations were taken away from the Irish inhabitants and given to English settlers, so Ireland stayed under their control. Mary and Philip wanted a son as she did not want Elizabeth to succeed her. Mary had a phantom pregnancy which distressed King Philip's returning back to Spain in 1555 as he had duties to fulfill within his empire. Philip came to visit and was told that Mary was pregnant again, which was another phantom pregnancy. Shortly after, Mary I passed away in 1558 in England and Philip returned to Spain for good. Since Mary did not leave the succession to anyone, her Protestant half-sister Elizabeth Tudor was crowned Elizabeth I. William Cecil, the first Baron Burleigh, was appointed as Elizabeth's personal advisor and helped Elizabeth settle into her position and guide her, as England was very religiously divided between the Catholics and Protestants. As a Protestant, she dismantled Mary's reunion with Catholic Rome, leading to the Act of Supremacy in 1559. Queen Elizabeth was a moderate Protestant, allowing certain Catholic acts. Matthew Parker was appointed as the Archbishop of Canterbury by Elizabeth, and previously exiled Protestants were invited back to England. Elizabeth needed to get married and choose who she wanted to succeed her, which was a problem in 1560 because Mary Stuart, Queen of Scotland, also a descendant of Henry VII, had a claim towards succession and wealth and power to back it up. Mary Stuart, a Catholic, could persuade Catholics to help bring her to power. Elizabeth decided not to get married because a foreign prince could lead England toward his kingdom, and marrying into her empire could lead to other conflicts. Mary Stuart had issues with the Scottish nobility, which led her to prison, where she escaped, formed an army, and had the Battle of Langside, in which she was defeated, resulting in her fleeing to England. When she arrived, Elizabeth imprisoned her for 19 years as they were not in favor of each other, and Mary wanted Elizabeth's throne, which could lead to problems. This led to a Catholic insurgency against Elizabeth, demanding for the throne be given to Mary. Cecilio suppressed the revolts, but problems grew as Elizabeth was declared an illegitimate queen by Pope Pius V in 1570, excommunicating her from the Catholic Church. 1570s England and Spain started having conflicts over the newly appeared trade markets such as Europe, South Africa, Turkey, Russia, China, and the New World. Spain controlled trade routes for the Netherlands, restricting English traders from main routes, and in the New World causing a decrease in profits for England. Relationships between Catholics and Protestants fell apart in the late 16th century, leading to the French Wars of Religion and the Dutch Revolt. Elizabeth secretly supported Dutch insurgents with finances and access to English ports in hopes of keeping the Spanish away from England. To fund the rebels, Elizabeth appointed Sir Francis Drake as a privateer for the British Crown and tasked him to rob and seize the treasure of King Philip's ships exiting the New World. Drake stole thousands of pounds worth of silver and gold from 1577 to 1580 and burned a multitude of Spanish ships, leading Philips to put a 20,000 ducats bounty. The Spanish went bankrupt from financial loss in the Netherlands in 1580 while Elizabeth was praising Drake. This maddened Philips, resulting in a small war with the English and Spanish raiding each other's ships. After 19 years of prison, Mary Ounce, the Queen of Scots, was beheaded under treason for conspiring to plot the murder of Queen Elizabeth, as secret letters with her signature were recovered. Philips failed to assassinate Elizabeth, so to restore England's Roman Catholic rule and get revenge on Elizabeth, with Pope Pius V, King Philips launched the Spanish Armada from Portugal in 1588. Those who helped Philip's campaign were told their sins were being wiped out, leading many Catholics to enlist and help. Treaties also justified the Armada, the Treaty of Gennevilliers allowing them to attack without conflicts erupting with France, and the Treaty of Nonsuch justifying the Armada since England was at war with Spain. Summary of the main causes of the Spanish Armada. King Philips wanted to return England back to Catholicism since he viewed it as his religious duty. King Philips wanted revenge on Queen Elizabeth for ordering the looting of his treasure ships. Queen Elizabeth was financially supporting Dutch Protestant rebels using treasures stolen from King Philip's ships. King Philips wanted to take revenge for the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, since she was a Catholic and he viewed it as a religious duty. The English and Spanish were fighting over full control of all the trade routes and trade markets. The Pope did not like Elizabeth, excommunicated her, and wanted her off the throne, encouraging Philip's Armada. Brief summary of the Armada. The Spanish fleet sailed from Portuguese towards France, but the Spanish did not know that England knew they were coming and had everything set up. The English fleet stationed at Gravelines, led by Lord Charles Howard and Sir Francis Drake, had an 8-hour battle using their long-range cannons, stopping the Spanish from reaching land, causing extreme damage, forcing the fleet to retreat back to Spain. According to estimations, gruesome sea storms and deadly viruses lead to half the crew dying. There were an estimated 150 ships and 18,000 men at the start of the launch. Consequences of the Armada. There were many consequences for Elizabeth and Philips. To celebrate and remember the victory against Spain's Armada, England made a medal stating "God Blue," and they were scattered. Many Catholics started converting to Protestantism since it was believed that God helped them win and was on their side. The victory made England confident, as the Spanish were considered the most powerful at the time, giving England's navy a better reputation and leading them towards more exploring/trade, causing global influence. Queen Elizabeth was depicted as a military hero, with celebrations and parades held for her around the country and shown through artwork and poetry. Relationships between England and Protestant countries such as the Netherlands grew stronger, increasing the power of Protestantism and the British Empire. This victory shone light upon the power and advantages of long-range cannons, officially starting an advanced era of sea combat. King Philips faced consequences, bringing catastrophe to his military as he lost thousands of men, many of his ships and weapons, and loss of finances due to the failed invasion. This was one of the reasons that led to the undermining of the Spanish Empire. A year later, Elizabeth had Drake deploy an English fleet to demolish the navy and liberate Portugal from the Spanish. This fleet was a failure as most of the crew died due to diseases, sea storms, and battles. England had small battles with the Spanish but mainly focused on supporting its allies and strengthening Ireland, where plantations were still going to increase allegiance since it was the most vulnerable to a Spanish attack. There was a major rebellion against England taking place in Ireland, guided by Hugh O'Neill, Earl of Tyrone, over a 9-year period with successful battles and financially supported by the Spanish, which England managed to defeat with a higher amount of resources. Overall, the Anglo-Spanish War finally came to an end after the Treaty of London was signed. Elizabeth passed away in 1603, leaving her throne to King James VI of Scotland, and is best remembered for her role during the Spanish Armada, strengthening the country. The main consequences of the Spanish Armada. Catholics started converting to Protestants. Strengthened and increased the reputation of the English Navy. Strengthened relationships with other Protestant countries. The starting point of what led to the undermining of the Spanish Empire. Strengthened Queen Elizabeth's reputation within and outside of her country. Started the new era in which long-range cannons were used by naval warships. Caused financial and military losses for King Philip's. This caused a decrease in the reputation of the Spanish Empire. Overall, this video's main focus was to understand the causes and consequences of the Spanish Armada for England and Spain in detail, to paint a picture in the mind of the viewer, helping him better understand the history. My script and bibliography are attached to the other document. Thank you for listening to my presentation.